Officer Marshall was standing right here. There? But that's where the victim, Detective Goodman, was. Correct. Unless the man wasn't Detective Goodman. I believe the victim in the video is Officer Marshall. I mean, that would be the only explanation. It was you, dressed up like Detective Goodman. But that's preposterous. Officer Meekins witnessed the detective at the crime scene. Yeah, but remember, Officer Meekins didn't recognize his face. Nor did he show his ID card, so it could have been Jake Marshall dressed up as Detective Goodman. Once he saw the man's face, he'd know for sure. And that actually connects to what we have seen on Jake Marshall's locker, like the white thing. May I point out though, that Officer Meekins did not know Detective Goodman. He also testified about the man's reaction when confronted. When I entered the evidence room, I asked him to show his card, sir. Yes, and how did Detective Goodman respond? He suddenly pulled a knife on me! Something about the officer's story puzzled me. If the man had his ID card, why didn't he just show it? I mean, because if he did, then Meekins surely would have noticed that it doesn't match with Jake's face. Yes, he would have needed it to enter the evidence room, so he must have been carrying it. The answer is simple. He couldn't show it. As you can see, Detective Goodman's picture is on his ID card. Ooh, I get it. If he showed that, his cover would have been blown. Officer Meekins would have realized the man wasn't Detective Goodman. Do you have anything to say to this, Officer Marshall? It's getting colder and colder, Mr. Marshall. You better hurry. You got quite an imagination, partner. We got a term for that. It's called circumstantial evidence. Circumstantial evidence? He's still denying it. You're gonna have to do better than that to break a detective. Okay. In that case, how about some hot sauce on top of it, Unless I have hard evidence proving I dressed up as the victim. I wouldn't say I particularly care for your uncooperative disposition. I cannot say I care for your beard. You don't see me complaining. Nor about your hat. Well, Mr. Wright, do you have any evidence? Any evidence proving beyond a shadow of a doubt? That Officer Marshall dressed up as the victim? Okay, I feel like I'm blending voices over here. My bad. It's because I'm voicing every single male over here. Like, we have 4 males over here, which is a lot at times. Well, who am I kidding? I don't have anything like that. Huh. I can see the fear in your eyes, partner. Seems you're the one who couldn't take the desert heat. This cannot be happening. It's so obvious he's the one. What can I do? Come on, Edgeworth. Yeah, you only talked once in this. And you have been dead silent for a really long ass time in this second part of today's trial. Like, what the hell? Okay, there you go. There's that good old Edgeworth smug face. Whether you are helping us or being a jackass, we do need you to take some action here too. I mean, come on. You cannot be just Phoenix. It looks like your lack of experience has finally been exposed. I'll pass on to you what someone told me when I was just starting out. When you've run into a wall with no place to go, return to the basics. The basics. For me, that'll be what Mia used to tell me. Nick, try thinking outside the box. I shouldn't look for proof that Officer Marshall was in disguise. But rather, I should look for evidence that came about because he was in disguise. Why do you think this locker was opened in the first place? What do you mean? There's no reason for Officer Marshall to open his locker at the time of the crime. Yet he did, despite the chance it might be discovered later as it has been. Which means he didn't originally plan to open his locker. Okay. I think I see where this is going. According to the defense's argument, Officer Jake Marshall dressed up as Detective Goodman at the time of the crime. Then, after the crime was committed, he opened his own locker for some unknown reason. The fact that a white cloth is sticking out of the locker seems to indicate that he opened it in order to put the cloth inside. So, just what exactly is this piece of cloth? Perhaps the video is the key to all our unanswered questions. When in doubt, watch the video some more. I don't have any evidence, so this video is my only shot. Very well. Let's take yet another look at the security tape. After committing the crime, the witness opened the locker to put away the white cloth. Please show us why the witness had to open his locker. Why? You want to tell me, you want us to tell you why? Well, to hide his clothes. Because he couldn't go outside with that much blood on him. I mean, if you are to look at the time of the crime, or yeah, there you go. I mean, there's a lot of blood over there. You cannot go outside with that much blood on you, otherwise people are gonna suspect you. So the reason why Jake Marshall opened that locker of his was because he had to hide his clothes inside and just get out. But the question is, what should I even present in the first place to answer that question? I mean, we showed this already, so... Oh, I see. I guess I'm gonna have to show the, the blood on him, don't I? Yeah. The reason why the witness had to open his locker was to hide his blood, like right over here. So... Yep, let's present this. For some reason, you disguised yourself as Detective Goodman and entered the evidence room. I don't know what that reason was. Yet. However, something unexpected happened. Officer Meekins barged in on you. When asked to show your ID card, you pulled a knife on him. However, Officer Meekins panicked, and the white cloth you were wearing was soiled with blood. And you couldn't go outside without changing your clothes, or at the very least, put your coat inside so that nobody would see the blood. A bloody white coat. You couldn't just walk out like that, so you hid the coat in your locker. Not bad, huh, partner? Thank you. Now then, Officer Marshall, are you ready to tell us the truth? Looks like I underestimated y'all. I hope you're happy now, Mr. Edgeworth. 2 years ago. If you were only as how persistent then as you are today, we all wouldn't have to be here, now would we? Officer Marshall, tell the court what you did. All of it. Alright. It seems the time has come. Alright. Well, now that you have decided to cooperate, you shall finally get your steak. Thanks, partner. Though, it is a bit of a shame. If you decided to tell us much earlier, you would have gotten a second steak. No! I had to do it that day. I couldn't just stand by and let it die. I stole the detective's ID and dressed like him. I planned to take out the evidence. I wasn't expecting Officer Meekins. I knocked him out and managed to escape. I knew which areas wouldn't be caught on camera. There wasn't any murder in the evidence room at 5:15. So the supposed victim was really you. But there's one thing I still don't understand. Large quantities of blood traces were found on the floor of the evidence room. If no one was murdered, then how could that be? I mean, the battle with Meekins surely had him bleed quite a bit, but having it be that much is quite questionable, actually. And it definitely ain't Chris's blood either, so... Officer Meekins managed to cut his own hand. My guess is he's the donor. It looked like too much blood for that. It surely looked like it. Alright, well, let's see about this one. Let's see about... I had to do it that day. I couldn't just stand by and let it die. When you say it, you mean... Do you even have to ask, partner? The SL9 incident. 2 years have passed since that case was closed. It was going to completely end with the transferal that day. Not if I have anything to do with it. That incident's not over. But what did you hope to accomplish by sneaking into the evidence room? When a case is closed, only the detective who was in charge of it can look through the evidence. I wanted to have a look at it myself one more time. No matter what the cost. I don't care what anyone says, partner. That case is mine. But Officer Marshall wasn't in charge of that investigation. Why does he care so much about it? That day was my last chance. That's why I stole the detective's ID and dressed like him. I planned to take out the evidence. Why did you disguise yourself as Detective Goodman? If I didn't make it look like that Goodman was carrying out the evidence transfer, I'd be arrested for stealing evidence, which wouldn't get me anywhere. Makes sense. I mean, Detective Goodman was the head investigator for that case as well, so it would make sense for him to get that evidence out of there, and not Jake Marshall. So he did it to fool the security camera. And the detective's ID card? I stole that the morning of the incident. So that really was why Goodman started filling out that lost item report. Let's see. Well, here comes the big question. Did Jake Marshall know anything about Goodman's death till his body was discovered? That is a question that I'm really curious about. I returned his ID card. I left it on the floor in the prosecutor's office parking lot. The ID card I found was left there by Officer Marshall. In other words, he placed the card there so he wouldn't be found later with it. So that he could tell us that Goodman's ID card was there at the parking lot, like the entire time.
So essentially, you managed to succeed despite your lack of foresight. What do you mean, partner? I mean the fingerprint activated lock, of course. No matter how well you disguise yourself, you cannot change your fingerprints. Normally, that locker shouldn't have opened. So it opened because a rubber glove was stuck in the door by chance? Man, he must have been the luckiest son of a bitch in the Wild Wild West. If he wasn't the one that put the glove there, since he didn't know jack squat about the fingerprint system. But it makes me question, for what purpose was the glove put there like that? Because the only one who can legitimately open that locker was Goodman himself, like, before Jake Marshall came in. That, or somebody managed to fool the system somehow. Then Detective Goodman must have opened the locker before Officer Marshall. Yep, got that right, dog. I wasn't expecting Officer Meekins. I knocked him out. You pulled a knife on Officer Meekins and tried to drive him off? Let's just say I was a little surprised. I only planned on being in the evidence room for no more than 5 minutes. I didn't think anyone would actually come in during that short time. Officer Meekins certainly is a 1 in a 1 million type of person. Mistaking a detective for an intruder and demanding to be shown his ID. Yeah, I mean, that video surely questioned what Officer Meekins said before. I mean, he said that he asked Detective Goodman for his ID, but in that video, it told me that he just straight up went after him. That's very questionable. I mean, that means that he lied, didn't he? I'll have to think a little more about his race this year. In similar fashion to Gumshoe, eh? When did Edgeworth get so much influence? yeah, that's a good point. Isn't that the police's job to evaluate officers and detectives? I mean, Edgeworth is a prosecutor, so what the hell? Anyway, he threw himself at me, and I ended up cutting him slightly. I'm sorry it had to turn out that way, with me knocking him out and everything. By the way, what happened to your knife? Oh, you mean this one? Ugh. Another piece of evidence that is being used by the witness. This time it's a knife. It's a knife, people! Well, I guess we are getting close to that AK-47 thing that I said before. I don't know what to say. Yeah, well, you should be surprised. Like, Nick, you probably should prepare yourself for whenever somebody brings a gun in the courtroom. You should just, you should definitely use your desk. You should train your reflexes a little bit in case somebody is gonna shoot you. So what happened next? I managed to escape. I know which areas wouldn't be caught on camera. So, you did your research beforehand. Those who go into the desert unprepared don't live long, partner. And yet, you came in without knowing about the fingerprint system. And if you tried opening the locker without that glove being there, you would have been zapped. And you are the one in charge of guarding the evidence room, for Pete's sake. You're telling me that you went in there prepared? I didn't think it would make a difference though. The security tape is raised every 6 hours. If all had gone as planned, no footage would have been left. However, you bloodied your coat in your struggle with Officer Meekins. If someone was in the security room when I came out, the jig would have been up. I opened my locker and stashed it in there. What was Officer Meekins doing during that time? What else? He was sleeping like a baby. So what you're saying is, on that day, there wasn't any murder in the evidence room at 5:15. But the blood found at the scene certainly indicates a crime took place. What are you, blind? The victim shown on that tape is me, and I'm not dead yet, partner. So, you stole the evidence from that locker? Actually, no, I didn't. Eh? Why not? When I opened the locker, the evidence was already gone. Huh. I see. Okay. But what? Mr. Edgeworth, where is that evidence? It's still missing, Your Honor. Is it still missing? Or... Detective Goodman's locker was already empty. Someone else stole the evidence. And that someone can either be Goodman or anybody else who managed to fool the fingerprint system somehow, using that glove. But why use the glove to block the fingerprint system afterwards? Or if that somebody stole that evidence beforehand, then why keep the glove there like that? Unless... Officer Marshall, may I ask you one thing? Fire away, partner. It's a free country. Just remember, I'm also free to decide whether or not to answer. Well, if you don't answer us, then at worst you will be sentenced to jail. I mean, with that being said, do you still consider yourself free to decide that? Why did you do this? Stealing a detective's ID, injuring a police officer. This is no small offense. Moreover, you are an officer yourself. And this will have serious consequences. You cannot just be forgiven with a simple cut in salary. Not that salary cuts are ever a valid solution. Like I said, this isn't your case. This one is mine. And I'll do anything it takes to get an answer I'm satisfied with. The witness has an unusual amount of zeal. Let's hear more. I cannot just forget the SL9 incident. You know why? Tell us why. But that case was solved 2 years ago, wasn't it? And that's the reason the evidence was stored in the evidence room. Joe Dark was convicted for those crimes. One thing I can say for sure, he deserved his sentence. I remember the Joe Dark case. It involved serial murders, didn't it? I don't intend to complain about how it turned out. But there's something that still bothers me. Something went down at the trial. Something no one will talk about. What happened? I don't know. That's what I'm trying to find out. Why is he so concerned with that incident? Maybe I should present him with what I think his real reason is. I had a feeling we'd wind up here sooner or later. Everyone involved here is related in some way to that case. Yeah, according to the files as well, everyone here is connected. In that case, I guess we should present it? I better take another look at the files. Okay, well, let's look at the files once again. I mean, we're definitely gonna have to show this at some point. 0. I mean, we also have one of the victims called Neil Marshall. Yeah, I think we're definitely gonna have to present this. Jake Marshall is connected to this case, and he just won't leave this case like alone. That he thinks that there's still more to this case than how it all ended. And I think that reason has something to do with that name in the victims list, like Neil Marshall. So to answer your question, you know why? That will be because of one of the people that died in this. Officer Marshall, I think I understand. I think I know why you care so much about the SL9 incident. Sounds like you've been sipping too much cactus juice, partner. We wish we had, but no, this is serious. I have the SL9 incident file here. The name, Marshall, is mentioned here. Yes, indeedy. Which means you know what happened back then. You truly are connected to that case because of this name. I mean, can you tell us about it? Like, for the love of God, please, can someone talk to us about the SL9 incident, like, in detail? I beg you, Marshall. I have been in the dark for so long about it. I think it's time we get some answers here. In a list of murder victims, Neil Marshall. Are you related to this man? Neil Marshall? Yeah, I'm sure you've heard the name. 2 years ago. He received the same lousy prosecutor award you got. What? A prosecutor? He must be talking about the King of Prosecutors award. So you're saying that this Neil Marshall won that award like 2 years ago? Huh. Makes me question what Manfred von Karma was doing at that time. I mean, you'd think that he wins the award like every year, so nobody else would be able to get it. But to hear that somebody else was able to get that award when he was still around, that's a little bit surprising. Now I remember. Prosecutor Neil Marshall. He handled the SL9 case before I did. What? He handled the SL9 case before you did? What do you mean? Wasn't it that you were the one in charge of the SL9 case? Where is it exactly? Head prosecutor, Miles Edgeworth. So, why are you saying that he handled the SL9 case before? That's right. He was killed. Oh. So you're saying that he got killed while the trials were happening? So they changed prosecutors between the trial days. And the case fell into your hands. But what's his relation to you? He was my brother. He was investigating the murders with Damon Gaunt, the chief detective at the time. Oof. The group of detectives I was part of worked under them. We were desperate to prosecute a killer. Joe Dark. My brother fought Dark and was killed. And that was the first time Dark left behind any evidence. That was all we needed. He was arraigned and incarcerated. The case was finally closed. At least, according to the public records. What do you mean? My brother couldn't have been killed by Joe Dark. I knew my brother better than anyone. No one could have beaten him in a fight. And that's it? That's your reason for your insane actions? And there's more to my brother's death than what the records say. No matter how much you try to hide it, you cannot fool me.